Welcome to this video tutorial. In this video, we will talk about Adobe Fuse as a character creation tool for Unity. Adobe Fuse is in preview right now, which means it is available for free. You simply need to sign up for an Adobe ID on Adobe's website, and then you get access to Adobe Fuse. Fuse also comes with a web service called Mixamo, which is responsible for animating and rigging your characters. Adobe Fuse has not seen any updates in about a year and a half, and employees of Adobe have stated on forums that there will be no updates for 2017 because the team is working on a different software. If you're okay with the functionality that Fuse provides right now, then go ahead and take a closer look. It is actually a pretty good tool. Simply take a look at Adobe Fuse and decide whether it already does what you need for your projects. If you need constant updates or a lot more functionality, then Fuse is probably not the right product for you, because nobody really knows what's going to happen with Fuse in the next year or two. I've seen developers being happy about no updates for Fuse because it will basically stay in preview mode for a while, or at least that's what we think. That means you can keep using it for free for a while longer. I personally prefer more updates and more functionality because Fuse does a few things well, but also is lacking some functionality. We will talk about this during this video. So let's get started. Fuse breaks down character creation into different steps. First, we assemble our character from different parts. I'll use Male Scan 3 here, but you can mix and match different parts as you need. Let's click on the head, select the torso, legs, and let's use some zombie arms. Perfect. Okay, those are the different parts we need. Now we can customize the character. Here you have the different body parts again, and you have a lot of different sliders. That is somewhat similar to morphs in Dash 3D and Dash Studio. And for this video, I'm simply going to randomize our character just a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. You can obviously spend a lot of time perfecting your character here. Let's head over to clothing. In this step, you simply select the overall style that you want for your clothing items. You can customize all of those items in the next step when you texture everything. So for now, let's just select the shirt. Or actually, let's get rid of that shirt. I want to see the zombie arms much better. So let's select the t-shirt instead. Some pants, shoes, some hair, cool goggles, and some gloves. That's good enough for now. In the last step, we will look at the texturing. Now this is really a nice and unique feature that is really a big advantage for Fuse. Fuse uses a texturing system called substances. And substances really give you a lot of control over every single aspect of your texture. Let's take a look at the shirt. So this is a very simple shirt here with only one material applied. If you have lots of different materials applied, for example to a suit or to some other patterned shirts, then you have much more items down here. We only have one fabric. But already you can see we can change quite a few aspects of the fabric itself. We can make changes to the general parameters. For example, we can increase its resolution. And we can work on the roughness or work with normal maps. When we select our fabric, we actually have a lot of different fabrics here that are available to us. For example, we could just create a leather version with nice scales on it. There's lots of materials already available, and you have a lot of freedom to just experiment. Here you can see the pants have many more materials available, and you can customize each of them. For the hair, you can change the color, you can put in streaks, and a lot of other things. So lots of options for customizing here. Alright, now we're done here on Fuse with our character. So what we do is we simply click on Save to Mixamo. But this requires you to be logged into your Adobe account already. I'll simply leave the name as Fuse Model for now, and we click Save. Once the upload to Mixamo is completed, a website will open automatically, and a rig will be applied to your character through Mixamo. It's all done in the background, you don't really have to do anything. There are a couple of choices here. Firstly, you have to decide whether you want a facial blend shapes to be included. So do you want your character to be able to talk later on, use features like lip sync? If so, then you should include facial blend shapes. Secondly, you have to decide on the level of detail of your skeleton. How many bones should be in your skeleton? Standard skeleton here is pretty decent, which means you actually have bones for each individual finger, you can bend fingers individually and so on. Let's stick to that, and let's click Finish. Now you can also include animations with your character here from the Mixamo website, but I will just go to my assets and instead apply animations in Unity later on. Okay, this is what our character looks like. It is in T-pose, so that is fine. We simply queue our download. We select the format, which is FBX for Unity. We leave it in T-pose and queue the download. Our download is now available, and we simply click on download. Once the download is finished, we simply copy the file over into our Unity project. Once we import the model into Unity, we will see that a dialog comes up saying that textures are being used as normal maps. We simply click on Fix Now, and we can drag the character into our scene. So you can see the characters here, but there's a lot of problems with it, so let's see what we can do. First, we can see that there's individual objects for each of the parts that we added to the character, and we also see our rig here with all the different bones. When we look at each individual material, we will see everything is set to transparent, and that is obviously not what we want. So instead, I would just change everything to opaque. And the smoothness is also set to 0.5 as a default value. You can probably lower this for most materials on the character. We're just going through and making basic changes to all the materials for now, before we start dealing with the hair and other transparent materials. Okay, let's deal with the goggles next. Firstly, let's have a look at what kind of textures we actually have here in our folder that was created by Unity. We basically have a diffuse, gloss, normal, opacity, and specular map for each of the body parts and each of the items that we attach to the character. In order to deal with transparent things like the glasses here or the hair, we should make use of our opacity map. So let's find the opacity map for the glasses, and in the texture settings, let's change alpha source from grayscale, alpha transparency, hit apply. Now, we simply use this opacity map, drag it into the albedo slot, and we can now color the glasses by simply using a diffuse texture in the detailed albedo. That looks much better already. We can do something very similar with the hair. Let's have a look at the hair. We have the diffuse and the opacity map here. Let's change again the settings for alpha source from grayscale, alpha transparency, hit apply. And we can now just drag the opacity map for the hair into the albedo slot. And we use the diffuse as the secondary map for details. And we see there's still some issues here. That is because we're using the transparent rendering mode for the hair. Instead, set this to fade, and it already looks much better. Okay, that is pretty good for now. There's one other thing that is a bit inconvenient with Fuse characters for now. That is because, while the eyelashes are separate, they actually share a texture with the body material, which means it is really hard to actually deal with them. We could now, as a compromise, do the same thing we did for the hair. So let's have a look at the diffuse map. Let's use the opacity map. And you can see the only thing that's black on here is actually the eyelashes. But let's change the alpha source. Hit apply. And let's drag the opacity map for the body up here. And diffuse into the detail slot. This will change the appearance of the actual skin. And we can see what happens. We cannot change it to fade. We cannot change it to transparent. The only thing we can do is we can use cutout as the rendering mode. And we can then actually use this alpha cutoff here to have a little bit of control over the eyelashes. It is not ideal. It is far from ideal. And you would really have to make a decision of whether you like this kind of color and the properties of the skin, or whether you leave it as is. But again, this is not ideal for the eyelashes. And this is one of the things that I mentioned initially when I said, there would be some nice improvements to Fuse if somebody were actually working on it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So we have to deal with what we have right now. One other thing to mention about Fuse is that there is no way to actually create children. You have the different parameters that can change the body shape, and you can make the character smaller, but to actually achieve the proportions of children that we did with DAZ Studio and with Morph 3D, there's simply no way to do that right now. And there seem to be no plans at the moment to do any of this, since there's no active development on Fuse. That leaves us with a nice character creation tool with a decent pipeline through Mixamo, but a few shortcomings and no real perspective for the tool at the moment. That is all for this video. Thanks for watching.